You can survive about 3 weeks without food, about 3 days without water. But without sleep, your brain starts breaking in less than 24 hours. The current record is 11 days. The man who said it started hallucinating on day 2. By the end, he couldn't finish a sentence and thought he was a famous footballer. So what actually happens, hour by hour, when you stop sleeping? And is there a point of no return? Here's the strange part. Science still doesn't fully agree on why we sleep. We know it clears waste from the brain, consolidates memory, and repairs tissue. But the deeper question, why evolution made us spend a third of our lives unconscious and defenseless, is still genuinely debated. Your body tracks sleep with a chemical called adenosine. Every hour you're awake, it builds up. The more that accumulates, the heavier the pressure to sleep becomes. Caffeine doesn't remove it. It just blocks the receptors so you can't feel it. The debt is still there. It's just hidden. So what happens when you just refuse to pay that debt? 24 hours in, your reaction time is now roughly equivalent to a blood alcohol level of 0.1%, legally drunk in most countries. Your judgment drops. Your emotional control phrase. You're irritable, foggy, and you don't notice how impaired you are. That last part is the dangerous bit. 36 hours. Now the microsleeps begin. Your brain starts forcing tiny bursts of sleep. Half a second, maybe 5, without your permission. Your eyes are open. You're standing. But part of your brain has gone offline. People have driven cars through microsleeps and remembered nothing. 48 hours. This is where it stops being tiredness and starts being something else. Your immune system measurably weakens. Your body temperature regulation falters. And the hallucinations begin, usually starting at the edges of your vision. Shapes that aren't there. Movement in your peripheral vision. Your brain, starved of rest, begins generating input on its own. 72 hours. The hallucinations are no longer at the edges. They're in front of you, full visual and auditory. And crucially, you start losing the ability to tell them apart from reality. Test subjects at this stage have held conversations with people who weren't in the room. In 1963, a 17-year-old named Randy Gardner stayed awake for 11 days and 25 minutes for a school science project. By day 4, he was convinced he was a famous football player. By day 6, he had trouble with basic speech. By day 11, he could barely count backwards from 100. He'd forget what he was doing halfway through. So what's the actual limit? Here's the honest answer. Nobody knows, and we can't ethically find out. You cannot run an experiment that pushes a human to the point of death by sleep deprivation. Every record we have is either self-reported, poorly monitored, or stopped early for safety. What we do have is animal research, and it's grim. Rats fully deprived of sleep die within roughly 2 to 3 weeks. Not from any single organ failure. Their bodies simply lose the ability to regulate temperature and fight infection. They break down from the inside, systemically. But here's the part that changes the whole question. Because there is one condition, extraordinarily rare, where the body stops being able to sleep at all. Not refuses. Cannot. And it is always fatal. It's called fatal familial insomnia, a genetic prion disease affecting fewer than 100 families worldwide. It usually begins in middle age. First, sleep becomes difficult, then fragmented, then impossible. The brain region that initiates sleep is progressively destroyed, and it cannot be repaired. No drug works. No sedative works. The progression takes roughly 12 to 18 months. Patients move through stages, panic attacks and phobias, then hallucinations, then complete inability to sleep, then rapid physical and cognitive collapse. They remain aware for much of it. It is, by a wide margin, one of the cruelest diseases we know of. And that's what answers our original question. Fatal familial insomnia is the closest thing we have to a controlled experiment, and what it shows is unambiguous. Sleep isn't rest. It isn't optional. It is a biological requirement as absolute as food and water. Remove it completely, and the human body does not survive. We treat sleep like a setting we can adjust, something to trade for another episode, another hour of work, another scroll. But your brain isn't idle while you're unconscious. It's doing maintenance that cannot be done any other way. You're not losing time when you sleep. You're the reason there's time to lose. So how long can a human survive without sleep? Longer than you'd think, and far shorter than your brain can afford. Go to bed. Hit subscribe first. Then go to bed. See you next time.